Hi everyone, my name's Sarah, and most of you probably don't know me. I'm taking this class asynchronously with Dr. Warden, but I've been seeing all your guys' presentations and they've been awesome, really cool, really interesting. So here's my presentation. I'm doing my presentation on non-tut linen. So the object I chose was this linen kilt or sash, which is from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's dated to around 1479 to 1458 BCE, which would have been the New Kingdom period. More specifically, it was from Dynasty 18 during the reign of Hatshepsut and Thutmose III. It was found in Thebes in Upper Egypt, near the tomb of Senenmet in a coffin. And it was discovered during the Met's excavations in 1935 and 1936. So as for the visual analysis of the piece, the length of the cloth has a woven selvage along one side, while the other side and both ends are finished with rolled hems. The fabric also has a weaver's mark woven into one corner, and this would say who made the sash, which could have been the individual weaver or possibly even the studio or group that made it. The way I think of it is the weaver's mark is like an artist's signature today. And I'm not sure if the fabric was never dyed a different color than its natural one, or if the colors faded over time, or if this just was the color it was dyed, if it was dyed a yellow tannish color like this. Although it's likely it was never dyed a dark color, as we would probably still see the remnants of that today, and we don't. And then for the meaning and usage, this piece was most likely a garment for men based on the readings that we've had and then research I did outside of that. And it would have been tied around the waist as a sash or a kilt. So the sash might have been worn over a loincloth, as you can see in the standing men in the top register, or a shirt and kilt may have been worn together in a fashion similar to the bottom register of the seated man and then the scribe kneeling down. Other kilts similar to this were made of leather as opposed to linen, like other sashes and kilts that have been found. And then for the archaeological context, so it was found with a shirt, a linen shirt, in a bundle of other linen items that was placed inside the coffin of a middle-aged man that we don't know what his name is. His name has not survived. Yeah, like I said, the man's name is not known to us today, but he was found buried on a hill directly below the tomb of the government official Senenmet. Multiple other burials were found in the same area of the hillside, including the tombs of Senenmet's family members, such as his mother, his father, and then 6 other family members. So it's possible that the unnamed middle-aged man was another relative or possibly even a member of Senenmet's household. And if this is the case, then the man would have been buried there because his spirit would have benefited from any offerings that were brought to Senenmet's tomb and chapel for the afterlife. And then to give some more context and information concerning Senemet himself, because it's important that we know who he was and why he was important. He was born around 1464 BCE to a commoner family, so he was not part of the royal family. Throughout his life, he worked as an architect and a high-ranking government official. Probably most importantly, he was a loyal advisor and a companion to Queen Hatshepsut, and he was a tutor to her only daughter as well. He was responsible for all the major building projects during Hatshepsut's reign, and there have been numerous rumors over the centuries that he was possibly her lover. The reasons for this rumor were that he was never married, he had an unusually quick rise to power, and he had a very large amount of access to both the queen and to her daughter. There were 2 different tombs created for him when he died, one being in the tomb of the nobles, and the other is located near Hatshepsut's personal mortuary temple. And then the picture there is a little figurine that is supposed to be Senemet. So why did I choose this particular object out of all of the linen that's out there? I thought the weaver's mark was really interesting. I'd never heard of that before, and I thought it was cool that artists were signing their art even in ancient times. I also like the versatility of the piece and that it could be worn numerous ways, like how we read about in our readings. And lastly, I like that there was a clear depiction of it in other forms of art, like in the images, the registers that I showed earlier of ancient Egyptian life. And then the cultural importance of this object, because even though it might just look like a piece of linen to us, it still has cultural importance. Clothes symbolize our identity and our culture, including for us today. But in the example of ancient Egypt, Egypt's climate was and still is very warm. Therefore, Egyptians had to dress to complement the hot weather, and the dress had to allow for people to be outside and working and doing things. The men and women tended to dress very lightly, which meant often leaving their tops uncovered and wearing thin materials on their lower half. Furthermore, the fabric itself was extremely important to ancient Egyptians, and it was the most prominent fabric in Egypt. Linen was made from the fibers of a plant called flax, which workers had to harvest, and ancient Egyptians had extremely well-developed weaving techniques, with many Egyptian workers being involved in producing different types of linen fabrics. It was such a light fabric, which made it comfortable in hot weather, but it was also easy to starch or stiffen into the pleats and folds that we read about in some of our readings. And these were common ways to decorate clothing for both men and women, specifically in the Middle Kingdom and beyond. There's my works cited. And then if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask me, I'd be happy to answer them over email. If it's a more general question, I'm sure Dr. Warden would also be happy to answer them right now during class. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing more of your presentations in the future.